Okay, now I'm going to go back to the home page. I'm going to switch over here. On our outline now, we're on 3B. We're going to overview, a quick overview of the items on each checklist. So now we're going to pull up these checklists, going to explain a few things, and we're going to run through some of the most commonly, frequently asked questions that I get about these checklists. That's what we're going to address right now. So you know how to pull the checklists now. For convenience here, I just have PDF versions of the checklists themselves and all of the documents that are listed on these checklists. That's what we're looking at here. And I did email these to you guys. But keep in mind, these listing packet checklists and all the documents on the checklists, all of the items that make up your packets, you can find those in CTM and in .loop, just like we did by creating a new contract or pulling in from the templates. I just want to be clear that these are just physical PDFs that I'm showing here for ease of access, so I can jump around a little bit more than I would be able to in the contracting softwares. So, all right, jumping in. We're going to take a look at the listing packet checklist in great detail, and you can see I've starred some of the items that are most frequently asked about. So that's what these stars are going on here. So each checklist is very similar. So read through, and as I mentioned, these are set up so most of your questions will be answered, and they will lead you through the paperwork procedure just by reading through these checklists. So starting up here, a quick reminder to you: to remain in compliance with the Colorado Real Estate Commission, the following items must be submitted to Equity Colorado within 24 hours of adding your listing to the MLS. The items in blue are required. So anything in blue on these checklists are required by our company, or they're required by the Colorado Real Estate Commission. The items that aren't in blue are optional. For example, short sale addendum. Not every transaction is going to be a short sale. Therefore, this isn't a requirement. You just check this box if it is a short sale, and you'll include the short sale addendum. So that's a quick prompt to what this items in blue are required, what that means here. So all you're going to do on each checklist, doesn't matter which checklist it is, you're going to fill out the basic transaction details, the seller name, property address, listing agent's email address, so we can contact you. And now we're going to get into the items on the checklist here. So number 1, commission disbursement and wire instructions. That's this form right here. And this is an important one. You're going to visit this throughout your transaction. It gives us the quick overview and contact information, transaction details like the under contract date, closing date, earnest money, etc. That's just quick information for us to see. But this form is also going to be submitted to the title company at the end of your transaction. When you go to closing, the title company is going to fill out this right side of the form, and that's how you're actually going to get paid. This is where they send your commission to Equity, and that's how we get you paid. So we're going to come back to this document later in the class here, but all I want you to know about the commission disbursement and wire instructions form at this stage, you'll see there's a nice little note for the listing packet. Right under here, it says, at this stage, please provide as much information as possible on the left side of the document. You'll fill in the remainder of the information when your listing goes under contract. Title will complete the right portion of the document after closing. So kind of just a quick reminder. And to further elaborate on that, it says, please fill out as much of the left side as possible. So for example, we're listing, this is a brand new listing packet checklist. So if we go through some of this information, we're not going to have all of this information readily available to us. So that's why we ask you to fill out as much of it as you can. So agent name, that's you. You're representing the seller. Your contact information here. And then transaction information. This is what I mean here. So you will know the client name. You will know the property address of your listing at this stage, but you're obviously not going to know your under contract date yet because it's a brand new listing. You haven't even accepted an offer yet. You're not going to know the closing date. You're not going to know where you're going to hold the earnest money. Maybe you will if you've already talked to a title company. You can fill that in there. And you're not going to know the final sales price because it's a brand new listing. And then same thing, co-op agent information, that's going to be the other agent's contact information. So the buyer's agent in this example, since this is a brand new listing, you'd be working with a buyer's agent. And again, you're not going to know their information when you're submitting the listing packet. And that's why it says, please provide as much information as possible on the left side of the document. You'll fill in the remainder of the information when your listing goes under contract. So I'm going to fast forward just to paint the picture here. If we take a look at the under contract packet checklist, which would be the second packet that you're submitting in this procedure, you'll see again, we're asking for you to submit the updated commission disbursement and wire instructions form. And that's where we tell you, make sure the left portion of this form is complete. Because when you go under contract, you'll then know the under contract date, you'll know the closing date, you'll know where the buyer is going to be submitting their earnest money, you'll know all of this information. So you're just submitting this form again with the updated information added at the under contract stage. Does that make sense? I'm going to pause. I just threw a lot out at you. Is that good? I'm feeling like that's a good sign. No questions, no noise. That's a good sign. So that's the commission disbursement form. We're going to come back to it. I'm going to talk about the right side in more detail during the second half of this class, the payroll process portion. And so moving right along back to the listing packet checklist, the next item that we start here is the listing packet checklist itself. The reason I started this one is because a lot of agents will ask, how come I need to submit the listing packet checklist with my listing packet? Seems kind of funny, but we do look at your listing packet checklist as the very first item when we review your files. This is just a quick one sheet for us. In other words, when we glance at your listing packet checklist, we can see all the boxes you've checked, and we know exactly what to expect within your listing packet. So we do ask you to throw the listing packet itself, the listing packet checklist, into your actual listing packet, just so we can glance at all the items you're submitting. So pretty straightforward. That should make sense there. If not, let me know. The next item that we've started here, the document storage and access fee form, the $60 doc storage fee. That's this one here. And so when you guys joined us, I mentioned we do have a $60 document storage and access fee on every single transaction. And what that's going towards, we are required to store all of your contracts on a server for the required 4 years. You remember that from your license prep work. It's a Colorado Real Estate Commission requirement that we store all your files for 4 years. And so this form briefly explains to your client that you will be charging the $60 to them. And that is completely up to you. So some agents do like to charge that $60 fee to their clients, but others don't. And so I will pause there and maybe just mention, if you are charging your client the $60 fee, just present this form to them. It explains why we're charging the fee. It explains that we will be able to provide them with any documentation 4 years and then some. So very, very important there. Have them sign that and then just include it with your packet there. You'll note the little, sorry, there's some activity going on in the office here. It's throwing me off. Bear with me. The note underneath the document storage and access fee here, it says, if you, the agent, are paying this fee for your clients, please sign the form yourself and include it with your listing packet. So that's the number one question we get about this. What if I want to pay the $60 out of my commission? Well, we still need you to submit this form. We just want you guys to sign it yourselves so we have confirmation that that $60 will be deducted from your commission when we process the file. So that's it on that one. Questions? All right, we're going to talk about how that's collected. That $60 is collected towards the second half of class here, but that's all I want you to know right now. And then moving on this listing packet checklist, you'll see these items aren't starred. So the items that I didn't star on these checklists, you guys are already pretty familiar with. So the listing agreement, again, that's just going to be a Colorado Real Estate Commission approved document that you're going to have to sign. All of the items that aren't starred, they're just generic transactional documents that you'll submit with every transaction. So if you have questions on the items that aren't starred here, like how to fill them out, what they mean, that is when you'd want to call our contract support business practice hotline. That's when Todd and Stacy can answer any of the detailed questions about those specific forms. This is just processes and equity specific forms that I'm kind of explaining here today. So hope that makes sense. The next item that's starred on our checklist is the MLS full listing. And here's an example of that. So with a listing packet, you're going to add this listing to the MLS, and we just want to see what you've added to the MLS. So this is all the information that you're going to add to the MLS for the public to see. And we do need a PDF version of this MLS printout so we can see what the public saw. And we can see the dates. We can see when this listing was active on the MLS and the official listing price, etc. That's why we were requesting this from you. So I'm going to pause. This document is starred because most people have questions on how to get this PDF version out of the MLS. So I'm going to jump over to RE Colorado really quickly and show you how you would download this and add it into your file here. So bear with me. I'm going to shoot over to RE Colorado. And we have RE Colorado right here. And it's a pretty easy procedure to get this document out of RE Colorado. Let me just get into Matrix real quick. So I will also say, if you have questions on how to add a listing to the MLS, we have tutorials. There's a tutorial video back there on Elevate under the training and how-tos section. So just remember that. So again, I'm not going to show you how to input your listing on the MLS. Come to a mentor roundtable discussion for that information, or watch the videos on Elevate, again, under the training and then the how-to section. That's where you're going to find the tutorial on how to add your listing to the MLS. I am just going to show you how to pull your listing out of the MLS for purposes of this class today. So we're going to pull up a listing. These are all the listings within our office right now. So once you add your listing to the MLS, it's going to show up right here for us. So I'm just going to pick a random listing here. All right. So you'll see the similarities. This is what it looks like. The listing printout looks like in the MLS system. This is all the information you're going to be entering for your listing. It seems kind of daunting, but you'll get through that. And so just to show you, we have the MLS version, and then we have a PDF version. You can see how similar they look. So now we're just going to get this MLS full listing printout out of RE Colorado. And to do that, down at the very bottom here, hopefully you guys can see this. I'll try to zoom in. There is a print button down here. So to get this PDF version out of the MLS, go ahead and click print, even though you're not printing the document. When you click on print, you'll see it gives you another option down here that says print to PDF. So we're going to click print to PDF, and it's going to generate a physical PDF for us, as you can see there. Pretty straightforward. And based on how your computer is set up, it'll prompt you, where do you want to save this document? And you can just save it anywhere you're going to remember. So create a folder where you're going to throw all your transaction documents into, if that's how your mind works. Or for now, you can just save it on your desktop, and you'll be uploading it to dotloop later in the procedure. I know I'm deep in the weeds here. There's several different layers, and right now we're analyzing the checklists, and I'm deep in the layer of showing you how to get one of these items from the checklist, the MLS printout, saved to your computer so you can upload it later to dotloop. That's where we're at right now. Just want to reiterate there. So I'm going to download this document, this PDF document, to my computer, clicking the download button there, and you'll see a little animation just took place. It goes to my downloads folder. So I'm going to click and drag. Maybe the computer's seems to be running a little slow. There we go. I'm going to click and drag that to the desktop. And so you'll see there's the physical PDF of the MLS printout. That's how you get your MLS printout out of RE Colorado. So you can call me if you need me to run through that procedure with you when you have a listing. Give me a call. I'm happy to walk you through that procedure again. So that was the MLS full listing on the listing packet checklist. Questions? I like to stop periodically because I know we're deep in it. I don't want you to feel like this is stressful. I'm just explaining some of the most common questions here so you guys don't have questions when you do this for the first time. Questions? Feeling good? You guys still with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Jenny is too.
Good. I always love to check in because it feels like these classes are interesting when I'm just talking for 2 hours straight. So it's good to hear real people on the other side of this. So thank you. Thank you for following along with me. All right. So the last item that we need to chat about on this listing packet checklist is the wire fraud disclosure form. And you'll see this form is blue. This is a new requirement that we implemented. In the past, it was black on the checklist, meaning it wasn't required. But now for every transaction, we want you guys to have your clients sign the wire fraud disclosure form. And here it is. So you probably have heard a couple horror stories of wire fraud in our industry today. Just a quick overview of some of the scenarios. There are people out there who are getting a hold of these commission disbursement type forms where it's asking for money to be wired. And these dishonest people are changing these routing and account numbers to their own bank accounts. And then they're changing the instructions. They're logging in and hacking people's emails. And so, for example, that's exactly what happened on a buyer transaction. So some hacker got a similar form like this and emailed the buyer saying, hey, we are all set for closing. Please wire us $300,000 for this transaction and we'll happily process the file. Well, the buyer thought it was an official email because the form looked so official. They didn't know anything about who was going to be asking for money. And so they blindly wired $300,000 to a fake bank account. Within 24 hours, that bank account was closed and their $300,000 was gone and they could not get it back. That's happening. That happens all the time right now. And it's a big, big deal with the real estate industry right now. So to ensure that you're having that discussion with your clients, that's why we want you guys to sign this wire fraud disclosure. And this form basically just explains, hey, buyer or seller, do not wire any money to anyone. As an agent, I will never ask you to wire me money. And so if you see any fishy emails that's requesting a wire from you, contact me about it. Do not wire any money blindly. And so please, please, please have your clients sign the wired fraud disclosure form. Questions or discussion topics on that? It's kind of an interesting one. Most people feel pretty good when you have them sign this because you're being very thorough. You're telling them about wire fraud and, don't wire 500,000, don't lose your money. That's not good. So questions, discussion. All right. We're going to keep on moving then. So that's all of the items on the listing packet checklist. The last little detail here, just so you're aware of these notes, at this stage of the listing, you'll submit the documents above with your signatures and your seller's signatures added. Once you accept an offer on the listing, you'll submit the under contract packet with the buyer's signatures added to these documents. So again, just a reminder of what I kind of mentioned at the beginning of class. You're submitting the listing packet to establish the listing with equity. And then when you accept an offer on that listing, you're going to start compiling your under contract packet checklist. So this is where it gets a little more daunting. You can see this checklist is a little bit bigger. There's a little bit more stars on here, but we're just going to breeze through this. Again, you don't have to remember these items. This is just an overview so you kind of know what to expect when you go through your first transaction here. So just like our listing packet checklist, there's a nice little note to get you started. To help expedite the payment of your commission, the following documents should be submitted to Equity Colorado for final review 1 week before closing. Again, that's just a reminder. You guys already have heard that so far. If you are a newly licensed agent under 2 years, all paperwork must be reviewed by your managing broker as well. So just to fill in the gaps there, we do want you to submit your listing packets and your under contract packets to Todd and Stacy locally here. That way they can run through and take a look at all of your paperwork and then give you the green light to submit it for final review to our compliance team. Again, I'm just setting you up for the procedure. I'm going to show you what that procedure looks like. I just want to explain that little note there. All right, and so very similar format. You're just going to fill out seller's name, property address, and then your email address again so we can contact you if we need to. And then we're going to jump right in to the start items here. So number 1, you'll see it's not blue, so it's not required, but if you are paying a referral, so if the client you're working with, this seller, if they were referred to you by another agent and you need to pay that other agent a portion of your commission, well, then you'll want to fill out a referral form. And that's this form right here, the referral agreement. So this one is very, very important. If you are up against this scenario and you are paying a portion of your commission to a referring agent, if you don't include this referral form in your packet, and if you don't check this box, we might miss the referral payout. So please, please, please keep in mind, if you're paying a referral, if you're paying another agent who sent you a referral transaction, check this box and be sure to fill out the referral agreement here. It's pretty straightforward. We don't really have to talk about much on the referral agreement form itself. You're just going to fill out your name or the sending agent's name. And then down here, you're just going to outline the percentages. So this tells us the amount that we should be collecting from your commission and then cutting a check for 25%, 30%, 20%. Remember, that amount is negotiable between you and that other agent. But that tells us how much we're going to be sending the other agent once we process your file. To get more detailed than I probably need to get, this is important because the title company, when you close your transaction, they're going to wire us your commission. So $10,000 comes to Equity. We're going to subtract 25% of that $10,000, and then we're going to cut a check to that other referring agent. That's why this is very, very important. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't think we need to spend too much more time on that. The next one on the list, the internal office commission share or new licensee mentor fee commission share. So I will show you this document. This one's important. So the note down here, if you are paying a portion of your commission to another agent within your Equity branch, or if you are paying the $1,200 new licensee mentor fee on your first 3 transactions. So again, to give you some more explanations there, we outlined this scenario when an agent refers a transaction to you. That's if that referring agent is at another branch or another brokerage altogether. You would fill out a referral form. Say you've made a friend here at Equity within the DTC branch. So for example, Janet and Jenny, the 2 of you that are on the call today. Janet, say you were going to be out of town, so you sent a referral to Jenny, and she's going to work the listing, for example, while you're out of town. You guys wouldn't have to fill out a referral form because you're within the same DTC branch. Instead, you guys would fill out tongue twister. You would fill out an internal office commission share form, which just tells us how you guys want to split the commission between the 2 of you. So it's very similar to a referral form, but instead we get the total commission. We subtract the standard Equity fees here, $4.99 and the $60, leaving us with the net commission. And then down here on line 5 and 6, So Jenny, in my example that I gave, Jenny, you would be the primary agent because you're the agent working the transaction. You would be left with 75%, which is $7,081. And then you would list Janet Gunther down here as the secondary agent receiving the 25%, which is $2,360 based on that $10,000 amount. So long story short, if you're splitting a commission with an agent within the DTC branch, just remember we have an agent-to-agent commission share form that tells us how to split your commissions up. That's it. I won't get too detailed with that. Is that making sense?
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's good.
Perfect. I was going to stick with the silent note there, and if no noise is good noise. So the second part to that, the new licensee mentor fee commission share form. So it's a very similar mindset, but for those of you who are new with equity, the 2 years or less of experience, you remember you are paying a $12,000 fee on your first 3 transactions with equity. And so it's a very similar mindset to that last form I just explained. The only difference, it's the agent commission share form, new licensee startup fee. And it's exactly the same. The only difference is down here. There's a field that's filled in for you automatically, can't be changed, and it's the Equity Colorado DTC office to receive $1,200 on your first 3 transactions. So this is how we collect that $1,200 fee on your first 3 transactions. So for any new licensees on the call, be sure to check that box on your under contract packet for the new licensee mentor commission share agreement form. And again, you're just going to fill out the total commission you're receiving, subtract the standard equity fees, the $4.99 and $60 doc storage fee, and then the net commission after the fees. Your name on the first line here, the primary agent. So we're just doing $9,441 minus the $1,200 gives you $8,241. That's why that amount is on that first line going to you. And then the $1,200 going to the Equity DTC office. Pretty straightforward there. All good? All right. So we're going to breeze through the rest of these. The rest of these items are pretty quick. The next one on our list here, 80/20 reduction form. Chances are you'll never see this form, but I do want to mention it in case you do come up against a scenario where this is applicable. So here's the form itself. And the note right here on the checklist, this form is only for properties with a final sales price of $83,000 or less. So there's not very many of those that we see. So for example, if you're selling a small piece of land and it does fall between $83,000 or less, just remember to fill out the 80/20 reduction form, and we will only charge you a 20% fee, which will be less than the standard $4.99 fee. Does that make sense? Again, you guys probably won't see it. Just know that it does exist if you need it. Moving right along, again, we don't need to spend too much time on this, the commission disbursement and wire instructions form. We already talked about this one, and I already gave you the overview. When you go under contract, remember, you're just going to fill in all the remaining details here. And so it says, make sure the left portion of this form is complete. When you're under contract, we then want you to start thinking about this. Send a copy to the title company a few days before your closing takes place. Title will then complete the right portion of the form after they wire your commission to Equity. They'll send the completed form and the settlement statements to co-payroll@equity-usa.net. That's where we're starting to get into the payroll process. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that because there's a whole second half of this class that we're going to talk about. Just remember, fill out as much of the left side as you can, and then start thinking about sending this form to the title company about 3 or 4 days before your closing takes place. Okay, we're in the home stretch, only 2 more to talk about, and it's quick. So again, the under contract packet checklist, just like the listing packet checklist, we do want you to include a copy of the under contract packet checklist with your actual packet so we can see all the items you're submitting at a glance. That's all we need to talk about there. Pretty easy. And the last one to talk about, MLS full listing with status changed to under contract. So just like on your listing packet, when we pulled that MLS printout from RE Colorado, the MLS, we just need it again, but at the under contract stage, you'll change the status in RE Colorado to under contract. And so we just need verification that you did that. That's why we were asking for the under contract MLS printout. That's all that's stating. So again, call the hotline if you have any questions on the MLS procedures there. Change that status to under contract and then download the MLS printout just like you did before and then upload it with your under contract packet. Okay, and then last, I just want to make a comment. All of these other documents, I'm not going to review just because these are standard transaction documents that you're going to be completing. So your earnest money receipt, your contract to buy and sell, counter proposals, amend extends, those are all standard documents included with every transaction. And that's where I would encourage you to come to a mentor roundtable discussion if you have questions about these forms or the timeline of when these forms should be presented. Again, this class is just procedures of gathering all your documents and submitting them to the compliance team. You can also reach out to our contract support and business practice hotline for any of these documents as well and how to fill them out correctly. And then a continuation on the under contract packet checklist, just one more note. As you prepare for closing, because you're under contract, you're moving towards closing now. As you prepare for closing, be sure to send a copy of the commission disbursement and wire instructions form to the title company. They'll use this form to wire your commission to Equity Colorado. After closing, they'll send the final signed settlement statements and the completed commission disbursement and wire instructions form to the payroll team. We cannot process your commission without these items. So it's just setting you up for the payroll procedure here. Before we get into that, I have a couple other items to talk to you about. So that's the under contract packet checklist. Any questions? I'll stop. Any other questions? Anything that you guys want to bring to my attention at this stage?
I'm good. Just
Okay.
trying to take it all in.
I know it's a lot. Again, try not to stress. These checklists are designed for you to lean on. So when you do go through that first transaction, you can pull all the notes right here. Everything's ready to go. I'm just getting pretty detailed here, so most of your questions are going to be answered as you go through this. I am always happy to help you with this procedure when it unfolds, when you get your first transaction. So thanks for your patience as we go through all this. The last checklist, we're not going to spend too much time on this because it's almost identical to the under contract packet checklist. But now we're looking at the buyer packet checklist. So when you represent a buyer, same exact procedure. And you'll see how similar it is to your under contract packet that we just reviewed up here. So same exact procedures. You're just going to gather these items. Only difference is you're representing the buyer. Same exact notes. To help expedite the payment of your commission, the following documents should be submitted to Equity for final review 1 week before your closing takes place. If you are a newly licensed agent under 2 years, all paperwork must be reviewed by your managing broker as well. And so we don't even need to spend time. Everything is exactly the same. Again, when you represent the buyer, though, you're creating these documents as you go. There's nothing to submit right up front when you sign that buyer agency agreement. You're just going to include that buyer agency agreement with your packet itself. So, questions on that? Do we need to spend more time on that? You'll see right there, that's where you're going to include your broker disclosure to buyer or your exclusive right to buy contract. That's your buyer agency agreement. Just to highlight that you're not submitting that right up front like you do with a listing. You're just going to submit it to us with your buyer packet. That being said, we do, again, a reminder, we do want you to have Todd and Stacy review these items before your clients sign. There's just another little procedure there. I just want to make sure you're aware. This is just gathering the items and submitting to the compliance team. So we're going to get into the mechanics now. I'm going to show you how to build a file in Dotloop. But are there any other questions about these checklists or the items listed on these checklists before we move on? All right.